Hi, today we are going to be doing the floral boho in the hoop bag by Sweet Pea. This is the finished bag that we did. The front is cork and you have to make your own strap and loops. The inside is all completely lined and we are doing the 7 by 12 size today. It also comes in a 6 by 10 with the embroidery design that you can purchase through the store from Sweet Pea. The very first thing you'll have to do before you cut the pieces out for your front and back is make your strap. We are going to be doing one without the embroidery today, just to show you that it has options. And we will be putting a magnetic snap in this one. But the very first thing that we have to do, we're using this cork for the front of the bag and the back of the bag. This will be the flap. And so what you want to do is cut 1.5 inches of the cork off of one side. It's a single fold. You fold both sides to the center and stitch down each side. If you're making it out of fabric, you can do the complete triple fold. It doesn't work with cork. It makes it too thick. So I have made my strap and I cut off my tabs and we are ready to start sewing the front of our bag. Now the design comes up and you'll see that it has a lot of embroidery on it. We're skipping the embroidery today because we're using this beautiful laser cut cork for our front. So the very first stitch that we will stitch will give us and it does not matter for these first couple of stitches exactly what fabric or what thread you're using because it will not show on the finished piece. First thing that it's going to do is give me an outline of the flap. And it wants me to put a piece of batting down. If I were using fabric, I would be doing that. But since I'm using cork on the top of it, I interfaced the back of the flap with either Shirt Tailor or SF 101 just to give it a little bit more body. And I did prepare this fabric with Terrio Magic just to get it nice and firm and ready to go. Okay, so the first thing has stitched and it is the outline of my flap. And I am ready to put the front of my flap down. And with this one, I am aiming to get my seam right here so that it goes up from there. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to find my center. I'm going to use the center on the hoop and I'm going to put a pin up through because that's where my line is going to go. And I want to match up this and I want it to go right between these. You gotta pick your spot and then line it up. Okay, so I am not going to be using batting in my front flap because I'm using the cork. So I am going to skip color number 2, which is the outline for the batting, and then just like you would with an applique, you would trim up to the batting line. And then I am now on step 3, which is setting the flap. And we used a pin to measure, to poke through to make sure that we were right on the line, hitting the line that we wanted to. And I did use a little 505 spray to make sure that it stuck. So now we are ready to stitch color number 3. And just so you know, We are already on page 11 of the instructions for this bag. The first 9 pages are about making the strap. She goes into great detail with that. So I am ready with color number 3, and I'm gonna hit the go button. And this sews around the outside edge because it is assuming that I will be embroidering. And so this just tacks all the layers down before you begin the embroidery. And you should make sure that there isn't anything behind your sewing machine so that your hoop doesn't hit anything. Ask me how I know about that. Okay, so now it has sewed that down. Now I'm really gonna move along because I am now going to go to the last step of this embroidery because color numbers 4 through 29 are the beautiful embroidery stitches for this flap. We're skipping all that because we're using the patterned cork. I do have a list of colors that I used. There is a map in the instructions, but I think you'll find that using the colors, if you want to use the colors that I used, these are apparently New Zealand or Australian flowers. And this is my interpretation of what they should look like, because I did use navy cork on this flap. So now I am ready to put my back on. So I have to go in my color palette. I'm going to go all the way to the end and do color number 30. And I can line this up because you're going to be turning this when you're finished with it. You want to make sure that it covers all 4 sides of that outline stitch that you just put on. And you want a little extra. If there's a little extra, you want to make sure that it is up above at the top of the flap rather than at the bottom of the flap. There are 2 files. This is just the front flap. You have to complete this before you do the base of the purse because you add it. And so there's no exposed seam here where it adds it. Let it go. Once I get this flap stitched out, I will take it out. I will trim around it. I'm going to check to make sure that it falls where I want it to fall by peeking inside. And then I'm going to turn it, and I am going to use the most wonderful turning tool from OESD. It is the Expert Point and Press tool. I have found it to be invaluable when making and turning this rounded curve. And the other thing that I found was that when I do press it, because I will press the flap, obviously we're going to be pressing on the fabric side, not on the cork side. And I found that using a clapper helped a lot in helping it to settle and flatten my seam nicely, because that's very important on a purse flap, is to have a nice flat smooth seam on it. Okay, so this piece is done. And you can see I have my nice little flap here. And I am going to just take a peek to make sure that it is falling where I want it to fall, if I can see in here. And you really can't see. there's the clapper. They do come in different sizes, but this is the best one for it, because what you're gonna do is, once you've got this turn, and you're going to press here, and as soon as you press, use the clapper just to hold it down and hold it flat. It has been very helpful when I was doing this. The other thing that we've just gotten in is the pressing station from Dime, and it is for purse making. Let me grab that, it's right here. And this not only has the wooden pieces for pressing on the different parts of your purse, but it also has your wool mat. So it's going to absorb, and what the wool mat really does for you is it presses from both sides, because it gathers the seam and pushes the steam and pushes it back up into whatever you're pressing. And I love my wool mat. I love all my tools and toys. Okay, so I am going to go cut this out and turn it, and I will be right back. Okay, so now we have our piece. It's all trimmed, and I used the pinking shears to trim it, which I forgot to bring back here, but you get the idea. We have some lovely pinking shears. And I'm going to give it a quick press, and then I'm going to turn it, and I am going to use the turning tool.
Turn your steam on here.
And I kind of roll the seam as I'm turning. I'm talking to the iron. I don't know. Okay.
It helps to have an audience.
Yes, it does.
Clearly, you'd rather talk to the iron than to me, so that's okay.
Okay, and as I'm turning, I am rolling this seam and getting a nice smooth line. And then I'm going to use the turning tool and run that along that
Show 'em
line.
that turning tool.
I showed them the package before.
See, that has a little end on this end and a big end on this end.
And I'm gonna use the big end.
Yeah, because it's so nice to not have something that's going to poke through.
Yep. Okay, so there. I'm just gonna run it right along that seam line. And again, I'm rolling the seam as I'm doing that so that I don't end up with my fabric showing. So I should be doing it from the front, apparently, because I'm not hitting the mark. Okay,
Looks good.
so I'll get that all the way that I want it. And I will use that turning tool one more time, just to really cement in the,
Gives you a nice
My
smooth
line.
line. And you know it does because you could tell exactly where she stopped with that turning tool. It had a little bump.
that I have to get back there and find. Is that what you're telling me?
You already did it. You just got it.
Okay. Okay, and then when I get it all nice and flat, I'm gonna check it from the front, but because I'm doing cork, I can't press from the front. I have to press it from the back. And I will be using my pressing mat. I'm gonna give it a good steam. And then use the clapper on it. It isn't always quick, but this really helps flatten out your seam. And it absorbs some of the steam and pushes it back down into the fabric. And that's why it works the way as well as it does.
And you can get your aggressions out too when you use the clapper.
Yes, you can. I haven't used it on this ironing board before. It's a little wiggly. But I do like this big board. It's a nice flat surface and a nice wide surface. This is something new at the store. really press down on it and get it nice and flat and smooth.
Oh, now the reveal.
Yes, yes. And there is my beautiful
Very nice.
flap. And this will end up in the seam so that it will turn about there.
Okay.
Right, we are back, and I am going to be putting, the next thing I need to do on this purse flap is install a magnetic snap. And I have done a few of these, but not very many, so bear with me. Okay, what I need to do is I need to find my center on the purse flap up about 1.5 inches or 2 inches. So I'm aiming to put it about here. And then before I start the base of the purse, I have to make sure that I match those two snaps up. And the designer goes into extensive detail on how to do that. And I would recommend that you look at the directions and follow along with her if you don't catch everything that I'm saying. So we are going to put the female half of the snap in here. And I am going to do some measuring to make sure that I'm going to put it in correctly. Measuring across. So my flap is about 10.5. So 5.25 would be my center, which is here. And I'm going to scooch this down. And I want it to fall right below this part of my pattern. Can they see? Okay. All right. So I am aiming to put it right about here. And I can't mark my cork. So I'm going to just mark the spot here. There. And I have my parts, and I have a piece of stabilizer. I'm putting a piece of Peltex in this to hold it on this. And just gonna cut a small piece of that to put on my magnet. And let's see. Get this. So I am going to put the snap through, slide this through, and then put my washer on. And I need to put that right in there. Probably not put this on yet. All right. So I am going to make slightly below that.
Oh, this might be Central Time.
Oh, I bet it is. So we got an hour.
Let's see, 12:30 Central Time.
Oh, 12:30 or 10:30?
Okay, so I've got my two spots cut out. Maybe. side through to make this side a little bit bigger. Can also use a seam ripper to cut these.
That's just to get creative.
Okay.
There's the MySonet, is it 12
I just don't like to forget.
Yeah, I really
I'll take care of it.
Look you up?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I want a Meridian.
Oh, okay, that's decisive. We don't have one in the store to show you one.
Oh, rats. Are they back ordered or something?
Okay, and then I'm going to put the little pocket, the little piece of Peltex inside just to hold this all snug because it's just going through a piece of cotton.
Correct.
And then a washer goes on. It's a little hard to show you the inside.
So you can show you on the Solaris. The
and
majority
then
of the features are
With authority, you have to put these little pins down.
Solaris, is that a embroidery only?
sewing and embroidery.
Sewing and
So the Meridian is top of the line embroidery only.
okay.
Okay, correct. Correct.
I've been doing some research, but I'm new to baby locks, so,
They're super easy.
Okay.
What do you have now?
So we have
I'm
our
sorry to say I have a husband on there right now.
magnetic snap on there.
It'll be a nice smooth transition for you,
And then the
don't
next
worry.
thing you're going to do is we are going to start embroidering
Screwed it up 'cause they're so expensive.
the base of the purse. Now there are several pieces to the base, and I will explain those in 1 second. Go to my 7x12.
3 years later, I'm like, I should have.
I really do like this,
And I
and I
never
really
ever
do.
sew, I've never once sewed with it, so I don't need an embroidery.
I mean, the only reason to do the Solaris is if you want that, projector feature. You can't get that on the other, so.
I don't know what the, like, the actual technology.
Options. Going to take away my grid so that you can see it a little bit better. You can see that I have my design up here. Now, according to the instructions, I should have 3 9x14 pieces for the 7x12 and 1 piece that is 9x18, I believe.
When did this Meridian come out? I told you it's new, but I've been searching.
Because what they had you doing is they had you making the purse so that the front flap was all one piece, just folded over. I didn't want to do cork on the inside of my bag, so I cut 2 pieces and seamed them together, and I wanted a little pop of color, so I folded this lining fabric up over and just did a top stitch along here, so that will be the outside front, that'll be the inside of my bag, and then the pieces for the back of the bag will be a cork for the outside and my lining. And there is a lot of taping, so make sure that you have a really good roll of tape, because almost all the pieces go on the back of the hoop. So this will be an exercise in taping a whole lot of things to the back of your hoop. And for this main part of the purse, we are going to be hooping just a piece of tear as a mark on the purse main flap, showing us the center. Once we get that, we can determine where we need to put the other half of the snap. So I am going to measure my 5 inches down. I'm going to find center on this piece. You can't really mark the cork.
Lisa, I'm calling my room.
Okay. And going to go 5 inches down from there, which puts it right about there.
I was curious, I have my own one city.
And this is where I'm going to place the second half of my
Mine has a big hoop as well.
snap. And I'm using the 3/4 inch snaps from Sally Tomato that we have here in the store for my purse. It comes with 2 sets. I did use gold hardware. Okay, so I have those 2 pieces and I need my Peltex. And I'm going to, I just sort of fold this in half and put my snips on either side. I'm not too worried about this part because it's just going to, it won't show. All right, and then on here, I want that on the center. I'm just gonna sort of mark it with the snap itself so I don't have 15 holes in it. Because on this part, you are marking right on the front. And there will be an opportunity to make sure that this matches up as we are putting it together in the hoop. And as you've probably noticed, this taping has gone on for more than 1 day, so don't adjust your monitor. I have changed my shirt. I may have even changed my glasses. I can't remember. Okay, you want to get that in there nice and firm. You can finger press these. If your fingers aren't that strong, you can use a hammer if you really want to. I don't think that you would enjoy watching me hammer something on video because that would be annoying. And because we are using cork on the front, I elected to use SF101 on my lining to attach that, to give that a little bit of strength. And it seems to be coming off a little bit here, but okay. So we have gotten our pieces, we have started to layer our pieces in. And I have put the front of the bag on that has the magnet, and now I'm adding the back face down on top. And because I'm using cork and I'm not using a batting, I am putting in a piece of cutaway stabilizer just to give it a little bit more oomph. And I am stitching the back down.
Oh my gosh. You're cute. Hi. How you doing? What are you doing now? Oh, you're home. Right up to the left.
Okay, and that's giving me my outline. I'm taking the hoop off and flipping to the back. So working from the back of the hoop, now I'm going to add the loops, and I have to make sure they're at the top of my hoop. I'm feeling for the magnet here, that's the bottom, so this is the top.
Yeah, of course it does.
And they go 3/4 of an inch. I think I'm gonna go an inch in because I want them just a little bit better centered
Oh, maybe you did.
than I had them.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to tape it down. Now, the tape I'm using is the Kimberbell tape, and it needs to be a paper tape. I do not recommend the painter's tape for this because it gums up the needle if you do happen to stitch through any of it. I'm gonna get this one down, and then I'm gonna put this one on the other end.
It is. Kind of exciting.
Down in there.
I don't know how to use my phone, I don't know how to
Oh
use.
my gosh, Kimmy P is so big, with red hair.
I'm ready to do a Zoom.
I know, I remember seeing pictures of her. And it's like such a beautiful color. You
Yeah,
pay a lot of money for that color.
from Dime
Couple people that are like, did you,
channel.
color
So
her hair?
they're really
Oh my gosh.
but,
What would you do that for?
of my
That's crazy, right?
perfect.
Yeah, it is pretty crazy because of.
Okay, and once you get your tabs down,
Two are,
you are going to, and I am on page 18 of the instructions. And then I'm going to place the flap on the hoop, wrong side of the flap should be up, and the excess length towards the center of the hoop. And on page 18, you should have these instructions with you at every second, so you don't put a wrong piece down. They used a lot of tape to hold this all down. Think I'm okay on this part, and it's clearing both the
we will.
right and left seams. Place the lining of the bag on the back of the hoop, wrong side up. So I've got the wrong side up, and this I treated again with the SF 101. And I'm gonna slip this in to my hoop. There's a lot of stuff going on the back of this hoop. So you're going to want to raise your presser foot. And we may even be stitching with the presser foot control. Get this lined up. Okay, and then we get to take this down. Okay, and you should keep your tape out of the lines of stitching as much as you can. The titanium needle won't really be affected by it, but let's not take chances. It's also really hard to pick out if it's in the stitching lines.
Unique new camera projector functionality. Linda, the camera and projector.
On the new machine? Nice.
That I ran into.
If you would just give me a call when we got this, and we can work on tomorrow, would work. We'll go through and we all.
Okay. Okay, now we are ready to stitch. We are on color number 4.
Now this is, when you open this up, there's a code in here.
Color number 4 is going to go around. It's going to leave an opening at the bottom, and it's going to go around the whole side. Now, you've got a lot of layers on here, so I would recommend on this part, when you get to this side, you use your foot control instead of using the letting it go automatically. So I'm going to just get it started here. And because I'm Oh, was, I am using my foot control. On the Both machines, you can use your foot control and embroidery to control the speed. On the Baby Lock, what you do is you press and hold the start-stop button, and it will go one stitch at a time until you get past the part that you want to make sure is aligned properly. So I am coming up to where I am attaching my loops. And it's giving me a warning that it's really a lot of fabric here, so I'm going slow. So I'm gonna go a little quicker till I get close to here, but I don't wanna stop in here because if I stop too much in here, it's going to give me my warning. All right, so I am past the worst of it. Oh, no, I'm not. All right. It's telling me my fabric is too thick. Okay. So I am going to I'm going past the tab here, and it's objecting a little bit. Okay. I'm going to,
I'm thinking you might be better off with a smaller bag than just carrying this, because this doesn't fit in anyway very well.
Can you show me how to fit that onto my, I sure can. Awesome.
all right. Backed up a few stitches. I'm going to hold this all down and go for it again. Okay, I'm using the foot control. It went past that spot where it was objecting a little bit. Okay. Going to do my final stitch with all of the pieces on here. I'm going to use my foot control to sew around this part because I am going through many layers here, and I want to make sure I make it past my loops again.
Do you know how much you want? Like, you want it 40 or you want it decide here? Okay, that's fine, basically. All right.
And let it go by itself for a little bit, and then when I get closer to this area for the other tab, I will stop it again and use my foot control. Okay, I can see that my foot, I'm well past my tab, so I'm gonna let it finish out here. It is doing a nice double stitch. You don't have to worry about this purse falling apart at any time.
Good. That sounds good.
Okay,
Isn't it cute?
And you'll be.
now,
Just a pack of that.
the final,
That came out of this book.
the final color on this, number 6, you do not stitch. It is only, it's there so that your needle does not return to the center at the end, which it will do on some machines. So you do not stitch number 6. So we are done. And I am going to use my scissors and cut my thread and take my hoop off.
Wasn't her panel in here a bit snowman?
And I have this,
Did she do it as a panel?
you can see on the back where I have my turning spot
That's the,
in my lining,
that's the table runner. Yes.
and my purse is all sewn together. So if you were using batting, you want to trim your batting.
It looks
I
like
didn't
that.
use batting, so I'm not going to worry about that.
I saw a small
Because it's
one.
a really strong magnet and if you cut it.
And you need to, we're going to pop it out of the hoop.
You can get it out? Okay, it's hard. So then you just wind this up.
Rid of the hoop. And because this is tearaway, first of all, I'm going to flip it to the back and take some of this tape that I can see off, because I will have to reach inside before I turn it and remove the tape from the inside that you can't see. And I'm going to remove, because this second hooping was tearaway, I'm going to pull that right up to the seam and tear that out.
For embroidery. She sprayed it and she ironed it and it made it really punchy.
We have a finished purse underneath all of this stabilizer and turning. So I am going to do some trimming and I will be right back. Hey, I have taken the design out of the hoop and I trimmed the cutaway stabilizer up to the seam because we don't need that extra in here. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to trim to about between 1/2 and 1/4 of an inch all the way around, except where the opening is for turning. And I'm going to leave 1/2 an inch there so that I can make sure that I have enough to fold up. This is going to be the opening in the bottom of the purse that you're turning the whole purse. Okay, so I went back and I used scissors to cut this out. I did cut pretty close, and on my corners, I angled it so I don't have as much bulk in the corners. And when I stitched, or when I trimmed around this opening, I trimmed everything right up to the seam line except for my 2 lining pieces. Because after we turn this, that's where you'll stitch the bottom of the lining. And if you have too much bulk in there, it's gonna make it really lumpy and not look right. So I am going to turn this. We'll give it a good press, but there is your peg. Okay. So I've got my bag all turned. And there is still an opening down here that I'm just gonna use a little piece of Steam-A-Seam to attach. And it snaps beautifully. It's a beautiful bag.